Welcome to the Wicked Truth number 38. Belinda McKenzie, Sabine McNeil, and that horrible jazz hands John Hemme. Before we get any further, this is just a reminder that I don't care if you like or if you subscribe. I couldn't give a shit. Basically, I like my own company because I'm a miserable, dried up old bag. With no further ado, today's topic is Belinda McKenzie, Sabine McNeil, John Hemming, and all those people for their roles in helping, I say helping, in the fight against social services and the child snatching by the state agenda, which is something that's close to my heart. For a while, I've wondered if there is a campaign to destroy the McKenzie friend. If you don't know what a McKenzie friend is, let me just briefly describe it to you. If you wind up in court and you can't afford a solicitor and you don't qualify for legal aid, you might need the help of a McKenzie friend. They are not legal professionals, but some of them have a lot of experience in law cases and going to court. They can't speak for you in the court. They can't speak directly to the judge. They can pass you notes and they can whisper to you and generally be supportive. And many of them can help you fill out court documents and so on. So really, they're very, very useful. You can find a list of some on this Families Need Fathers website, not to be confused with Fathers for Justice. It's Families Need Fathers. And the chap that I used is listed here, James John Class. I don't know if he's still going. I have a feeling this list is really quite old now. But anyway, let's get back to the topic. On the Hoaxstead blog, there is an article, Is Belinda McKenzie out to destroy the McKenzie friend? And I don't believe it's just Belinda. I believe all the people that I have aforementioned are gathered together in this plot to blacken the name of McKenzie friends. For a while now, there has been some resistance to the idea of McKenzie friends because solicitors don't like them. People who are legal professionals have studied for many years and it costs a lot of money to get a law degree, and they don't like other people muscling in on their act. Apart from that, when it comes to the family court, they don't want people having help that is reasonably priced when the agenda is for the state to steal children. Now, I was watching this week a lot of materials from the Hoaxstead YouTube site, this Karen person, and she doesn't seem to believe there is an agenda to snatch children. And she seems to think that all the people who are accused in family court are genuinely neglectful and bad parents, which is not something I would agree with. Obviously, I have this YouTube channel, but I have another which is on hold at the moment because it got a 12-week strike from YouTube. I don't know quite why it got that strike. I can only conclude that they mistook some of my materials for conspiracy theory when in fact those videos were debunking particularly conspiracy theories around the no-no-ness. We all know what that means, don't we? But we can't say it. At any rate, if you look on my other channel, which is Queen of Swords, as opposed to this one, which is Queen of Words, you will see that there are quite a lot of videos about social services there, and it's something I've had a lot of involvement in to do with on a personal level as well. So I can tell you I know as a fact that there is an agenda to attack the family in this and many other countries as a unit, so that we are all just split apart from each other as individuals. There really is some kind of campaign to split us all from each other so that we cannot fight the oppression that is coming into our lives. So let's have a bit of a closer look at these people. The first one of these is Sabine McNeil. Obviously, she's been around in the truth hoax industry for a while now. as you can see from this picture that was from the Richie Allen show. She is supposedly currently languishing in jail for her role in harassing people as part of the Hampstead satanic ritual abuse hoax story. That I agree with the Hoaxstead channel. I agree that was a hoax story, as was Holly Gregg, and a lot of the satanic ritual abuse stuff is very over-egged and exaggerated. Here's Belinda McKenzie, who I met myself when I went to one of the Holly Gregg trials at the Royal Courts of Justice. Now, if you want to have a proper look at Belinda's background, that video on Hoaxstead, the YouTube channel done by this lady called Karen, is very good. Of course, I don't agree with her point of view that the social services are entirely innocent and that all children are taken because there's genuine neglect, and all the cases that Belinda got involved with were cases of genuine neglect and abuse. I don't agree with that at all. But she is right in terms of the facts about Belinda are that the first charity that she got involved with was a charity to do with Iran, and it seemed there were what is usually termed financial irregularities, or as was said often in Father Ted, that money was just resting in my account. So basically, she's got the usual cover story that I would say for MI5 people of being just a scammer and a con artist. I don't believe for a minute she is. She has more of an agenda than that, and there are people that I know of who've gone to her for help, and basically at that point their cases went completely down the drain. In fact, all of these people, Sabine, Belinda, John Hemming, people go to them for help, and you'd be lucky if they were too busy to do anything for you, which was the case with me, because you would end up in a far worse position than you originally were. Well, one of the people that I know who was being helped by Belinda needed to get some very important paperwork handed in to the court in London on a Monday morning. And they went to stay with Belinda over the weekend so Belinda could help with the paperwork. And what happened? They spent all weekend getting pissed, and the paperwork was never handed in on time. What a surprise, eh? When it comes to Belinda and Sabine, you can only look and wonder why two obviously middle class and well educated women would want anything to do with the rather grubby subject of social services and child snatching. Of course, they could fall into that category of upper middle class do-gooding twits, I suppose. But, I never looked at either of them and thought that. I thought they're very well educated. And then later on, I thought, very well educated women, MI5. I can't remember why I put this particular slide here. Oh, I know. I was just going to say, I've already said it. You can go and look at this lady's videos about Sabine and Belinda and hear all the bad stuff and the negatives. She's very keen to say, I don't think they really are MI5 people, and I don't know why people insist on sticking to this. It's so obvious. So back in the day, as you can see, this document's 2014, Sabine and Belinda and John Hemming were all three involved in this thing called the Association of McKenzie Friends. And in fact, the website's completely disappeared now. But if you had seen it back in the day, and unfortunately I never thought to take screenshots or anything, it seemed that there were really only 2 or 3 McKenzie friends, and those were Sabine, Belinda, and a chap who I can't remember his name, but he was somebody who'd been a victim of the elites, as we say. So basically, this association of McKenzie Friends was picked and chose their particular cases to support, and they were involved in high-profile ones. And if we just look at the example of Vicky Haigh, Vicky Haigh's case went disastrously wrong. The court case concluded that she had coached her child into making allegations of sexual abuse by her former partner. And John Hemming got her this interview with the Daily Mail, which was also a disaster. And there were lots of photos of Vicky in her horsey kind of get up. And they basically said the same thing, that she was a liar and a terrible mother and had made it all up and coached the children. So it, John Hemming did not get Vicky Haigh any good publicity. In fact, it went really disastrously wrong when he got involved. And I think that is entirely the point. These people's involvement as McKenzie friends just produced disastrous consequences and blackened the name of McKenzie Friends. So here we have old Jazz Hands Hemming again, who was, as you may know, a Liberal Democrat MP. I think his constituency was Yardley and Birmingham. He set up a new McKenzie Friends thing, which was called Justice for Families. And you could apply to Justice for Families for help, which I actually did, and I really dodged a bullet there. These people were involved, and I don't think this Justice for Families is ongoing. And Julie Haynes seems to have a new thing, which is troll hunting, which seems quite strange to me that someone could make a living doing that. But this is a screenshot from a newspaper article about Julie and Tim Haynes came within a hair's breadth of losing their children after he left their daughter while he popped in to buy Calpol at a chemist's. I believe that the child was left in a locked vehicle, and he was quite close to it, not far away in this pharmacy where he could see from the window the car. But all the same, this got them into trouble with social services, and Julie Haynes was involved, and I believe Julie Haynes was quite a capable McKenzie friend, and she was involved with this new Justice for Families thing. So here's a screenshot from the Independent, which refers to John Hemming as chairman of the Justice for Families group. And I believe this article actually suggested that parents flee the country if they were involved with social services rather than go through the court system. I don't actually believe that's good advice. I think you should tough it out. And I think actually representing yourself in court with a McKenzie friend is a really good option, because if you can at least speak to the judge for yourself and show your best side, rather than a solicitor doing it for you, the judge actually gets to speak to you personally and gets a better impression of you. This chap here is a man called Eugene Lukyanenko, and Eugene lost his child. First, the child was taken into custody for a while, and he got the child back, and then he was taken away permanently. And Eugene got into trouble. He broke a court order, and he named his son in public and on websites and that kind of thing. He had quite a big social media presence at that time, and he did a few very crazy solo protests, and one where he climbed onto the house of an MP. I believe he was Minister for Children at the time, and he stayed up there several hours, and it caused a bit of a rumpus. He was with another campaigner. I think that was the one David Alexander was involved in. Anyhow, I myself had a lot of involvement with Eugene around the time that he went into prison. He had a sentence for breaking this order where he was supposed to not mention his son's name. And so he got this custodial sentence, and he was in HMP Elmley. At that time, I was living on the Isle of Sheppey, so I was the nearest person to Eugene at that point. And I helped Eugene out with a lot of his communications. So he would phone me from the prison, or I would email him using the system where you can send prisoners emails. And I actually ran his social media for a while he was inside, although I wasn't able to say at the time because it was top secret. Nobody wanted anybody to know who was doing that. So the point of mentioning Eugene is that this campaign to get rid of McKenzie friends and blacken their names was continued. At that time, Eugene Lukyanenko's McKenzie friend, who was supplied by Justice for Families, and which at that time was headed by John Hemming, was this lady here, Becky Gaffney. As you can see, she's on Star now as an aspiring actor, extra, model, dancer, musician, blah, blah, blah. It says here, I have 3 GCSEs and I am currently studying family law. Oh dear. Well, you can imagine how this went. And if this doesn't tell you that there's something odd about John Hemming, then I don't know what does, because I had cause to contact John Hemming and complain about this lady more than once. It was like her sole aim was to completely sabotage Eugene's chances of anything, any success in any of his numerous court cases that were ongoing. In fact, it was the case that you couldn't get any paperwork out of her, and he was phoning me and saying, I need to have this document and read it, and it needs to be in very soon. I haven't had any paperwork from her. I can't get in touch with her. Can you ring her for me? Blah, 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 because obviously his phone calls per day were very limited. He was also on hunger strike at the time, so he wasn't necessarily the most with it. But I couldn't get anything out of her. She was nasty. She started spreading lies about me on Facebook and all these different type of things. She essentially created drama wherever she went. So it wasn't almost like she was put there on purpose to do this. It was exactly like she was put there to do this. The whole situation was completely awful. Absolutely awful, which is nothing more than you would expect from somebody who is little more than some sort of glamour model, basically a very poor man's version of Denise Van Outen. So that was a complete disaster. I contacted John Hemming about this, and he just didn't want to know. He wasn't the least bit interested either in Eugene's case or in what this lady was doing in her connection to Justice for Families. Just he didn't want to be involved at all. So I think these people are supplied by MI5, dare I say it, even though Karen and the Hoaxstead bunch don't want to believe that anything untoward ever happens in this country. Well, I'm sorry to say, folks, I think it does. And if McKenzie friends last, I will be glad, because I think they're very necessary. But they are keen for there to be many stories about people like Becky Gaffney, who were the worst McKenzie friend you could ever hope to have. Okay, so that's the end of this story. Tatty bye.